Morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's MPC Markets morning call, 7th of August, 2025. Headline this morning, stocks higher as Trump convinces Apple to make parts locally. This was part of a much broader and sprawling announcement that was after the bell. Trump covered everything from semiconductor tariffs at 100%, which was a surprise, to India buying Russian oil, to Iran, to comedians being sacked for being anti-Trump. It was quite the speech. Covered a lot of ground. But look, equity is really positive overall. And yesterday, very proud of the ASX yet again, up 0.84, new record highs. Doing well here, as we should. There was a chorus of pundits on Bloomberg and Ausbiz TV, etc., yesterday that came out naysaying the ASX, which really screams to me buy signal, to be honest. I think our market really is extraordinarily cheap compared to global markets, particularly with we've had China in the doldrums for 3 odd years now. Any sort of improvement in China there, half our market's going to be going fantastic. We're coming into earnings. So far, we've had some fantastic earnings results. Pinnacle was up yesterday, plenty, and a couple of other REA Group. So earnings has started well. But look, Pinnacle and REA, quality companies. So I think that's going to be the real theme here is that, and you definitely don't want to get caught. The ASX absolutely obliterates anyone who disappoints. The investors here are... they will abandon ship at all costs. I don't care what price. But, those seeming more and more, those market darlings that are really reliable earnings reporters that are going to have some growth, I think they will do very well. Pinnacle's just been getting inflows overall. Lifted the broader market up. And gold stocks jumped a little bit yesterday as well. So Northern Star coming out of the doldrums a touch. One of our old favourites, Newmont, above $100. Shout out to those who said I was crazy that it was going to go to $100 about 3 or 4 months ago on Twitter. It's now around about 105. As you see, it was fairly flat in Asia overall. And then we had the Dow was up small, S&P up 0.75%, Nasdaq up 1.25%. There would have been some movement after the bell. I haven't really had time after listening to Trump's sprawling conversation just now to really get dug into what the aftermarket reactions were. I think semiconductors initially were hit, but we'll have to have a quick chat about that. So Trump's announced he brought Tim Cook into the White House. Initially, when they were talking about what they suspected they were going to announce, it was really just to bring back the glass that covers the iPhones, just a portion of the manufacturing. It was really, obviously, it was like, yay, you're bringing back the glass. But realistically, it was a far broader than that. And, it was obvious. And I'm now sort of quoting more Tim Cook rather than President Trump. They committed $100 billion, but they're bringing back that glass, the glass screen manufacturing part. But they are bringing back certain other parts, and that was where Trump announced 100% tariffs on semis. However, if you bring your manufacturing back to America, you will be exempt from those tariffs. And even if you're building the manufacturing facility to start producing in the US, you will be exempt from those tariffs. He went to great lengths to outline as well, if someone commits and then doesn't follow through, they will retrospectively be hit with those tariffs and they will be monitoring and accruing. So, look, if he wants manufacturing back in the US, not a bad policy, I've got to say. It will encourage investment, and there was a couple of good quotes out of it. Which were a little bit detached from reality. And it sort of is a nice tie-in for the ISM non-manufacturing index, which We had the services index last night. We've got the non-manufacturing. We'll have the manufacturing at some stage. Fell to 50.1, just above, or just in the expansion territory. The numbers last night showed very clear signs of intensifying fears of stagflation, weak growth, and elevated input costs. So it was one of the largest spikes in input costs for non-manufacturers in a very long time. So, which brings me to what Trump said: prices are down everywhere, gasoline's down, eggs are down. The only thing that's up is the stock market, which pretty. I think when we go back to normality, when Trump's finished in a few years' time, and go back to like a normal president or a head of state, they just don't say things like that. But he's obviously very clear. He wants to get those positive announcements. He can't get trade deals done, but he can definitely get companies to the table. So probably a pretty smart pivot from him. There's too much bureaucracy with countries, and doing deals with the likes of Nvidia and Apple, which are richer than most countries, is probably not the worst idea. Get that manufacturing back. They talked Tim Cook also talked rare earths, and having an end-to-end supply chain. But they were pushed by the journalist on making the iPhone in America, and they both obviously they expected that question, and it was probably organised by the journalist. They went to great lengths to say the only thing that happens offshore is the assembly in the end, and look, that would be the sort of thing that this robot technology, manufacturing technology. Mr. Musk might actually, if they're really bringing back that manufacturing to the US and they need to start building these facilities, they're going to kit it out with the latest stuff. So I'm still very bullish on the long-term prospects of Tesla, particularly if these new you're not retrofitting previous manufacturing facilities, so you're going to go with the latest thing. And the great thing about these robots is that you can repurpose the production line in breakneck speeds, and you don't have to hire people, etc., etc., etc. Labour cost is one of the big things with manufacturing in the US, and that sort of solves the problem. So again, I can see that probably being not a bad thing long term. We're going to move to the calendar now. It thins out next week. We got Monday.com and Oklo. Oklo is very small modular reactors, but it's one we've got our eye on at the moment. Tuesday, CoreWeave and Circle, Cardinal Health. I mean, Cisco's a big name. John Deere's a big name. C Limited, which is a Singaporean company, but is actually quite big in most of the Asian tech ETFs. That's on Tuesday. Alibaba, JD.com, and Amcor on Thursday. So yeah, I mean we're talking fairly well-known companies, but we're really heading down the market cap list now. In terms of economic decisions, there's some really big stuff next week, particularly for Australia. RBA rate decision, employment on Thursday, and probably just as importantly, industrial production for China will be massive if this continued trend of improving numbers happens for China. And inflation numbers in the US, CPI, PPI, Tuesday, Thursday, retail trade on the Friday. And Trump's loving the attention at the moment, so I would imagine he says he's got Micron coming into the White House next Tuesday. It wasn't previously announced. Look, it could be. He was struggling for names. I would not be remotely surprised if that meeting's being organised now, because he sounded very much like he was making it up. Watching the pundits and Bloomberg straight after on that 100% semiconductor, 100% of the analysts said they don't ever expect that 100% to be pushed in. It's just a negotiation tactic. I tend to agree, but look, it's not a bad threat, and I think companies are going to be more sensitive because they're beholden to share, like they're answerable to shareholders. So whereas you're every quarter, so whereas your government, and they've got 3 years for this story to get buried in the background. So Yeah, I will release Aussie earnings. Really does kick off next week. I will release an Aussie earnings calendar separate. It just wouldn't fit on there overall. But you've got the likes of CBA, Telstra, Pro-Medicus, Suncorp, Origin Energy, Evolution Mining, the ASX, Treasury Wines, so JB Hi-Fi. Fair few next week, and so I will release a secondary calendar for ASX investors, so you'll be able to see both of those. Downside of doing the logos is doesn't really fit. Looking out for today, as far as what I can see, we've got AMP and Light and Wonder. I think we'll be relatively quiet. I can't see the ASX really kicking on unless there's some moves in the commodity market around lunchtime when China opens. There's no economic data, so the positivity continues, and we will hopefully we will get a few little hit and run opportunities next week for the global alpha, where Richie and I are looking at a couple of good names. Oh, and one thing I did miss actually was Spotify reported last night. Stock was up 3.6%. They increased the forecast for third quarter revenue and beat top and bottom line. Snap, which is a Snapchat, got belted 17%. Weak quarter, mounting competition. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I don't think even the kids are using Snap anymore too much. So yeah, but it wasn't a huge night for earnings overall. AMD got hit from that poor result yesterday. McDonald's was fairly solid, and just by basically their ability to pivot on pricing, etc. And Disney was off small. The theme parks did well, but their streaming and things was a little bit off kilter. Just on the back of, they've got a deal coming up with ESPN, and it's going to launch a new direct-to-customer streaming service on the 21st. So there was a lot going on there, but it didn't move too much overall. I think McDonald's was up about 3%, so not bad for those cash flow kings. And we did see, that sort of sector of the market ahead a little bit higher. Healthcare still looking pretty weak. There's still a lot of threats going on. There was one question thrown up at Trump's press conference about that, and he pretty much he said, "We'll look into it," and then straight away pick someone else to talk about what he wanted to talk about. So he runs a press conference well, the man. But that really wraps it up for today. I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll speak again tomorrow.
General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.